Hello friends, this is part 3 of the video series on the Rewrite API. Let's have a quick recap. In part 1, we provided an overview of permalink settings, where we learned how to set a permalink structure for posts, categories, and tag bases. We also explained how to create custom rewrite rules and custom URL structures for custom post types and custom taxonomies. Additionally, we explored the internals of the getPermalink and getTermLink functions. In part 2, we provided an overview of the WP rewrite class. In this video, I will explain how the URL structure works from start to finish, the execution workflow, how WordPress identifies and parses the current request, matches the rewrite rules, and how it determines what content to fetch from the database and display on the front end. Let's go through this step by step. Since we have set up a custom permalink structure for posts, let's analyze how this structure works behind the scenes. For demonstration, I'll navigate to a post, open the block image, and click View. The URL structure is as follows: articles/category/post slug hyphen post ID. I've installed the Query Monitor plugin, which is incredibly helpful for developers. It provides detailed insights into actions, filters, remote API calls, PHP errors, queries, logs, and more. I recommend installing this plugin on your local or development site. In the Query Monitor, under the Request tab, you can see the current request, the matched rewrite rule, and the query string. Now, let's analyze how WordPress uses this matched query and query string to fetch data from the database. We'll go step by step. You can also view all the matching rewrite rules. While there may be multiple matches, WordPress only uses the topmost rewrite rule. I have opened the WordPress codebase in Visual Studio Code. Every request coming to WordPress starts from the index.php file. It specifies that themes are used to represent content on the front end, which then requires the wp-blockheader.php file. This file loads wp-load.php, which in turn loads wp-config.php. This file contains all the configuration settings. At the end of wp-config.php, you will see the inclusion of wp-settings.php. wp-settings.php includes all required files from the wp includes folder and performs necessary setups. Let's go back to wp-blog-headers.php. Once WordPress is fully loaded, wp-blog-headers.php sets up the WordPress query by calling the wp function. The wp function is defined in the functions.php file inside wp includes. It initializes the WordPress query by creating instances of the WP class. This function defines global variables WP, WP query, WP the query, and then calls the main method of the WP class. The main method sets up all required variables for the WordPress environment. Initially, it accepts empty query parameters. The init hook in main gets the current user. If a user is logged in, their data is set in the global current user variable. Let's go back to main method. The parse request method of the WP class is called after init. This method parses the request using the WP rewrite object. It applies filters to decide whether to pass the request. After that, it stacks query variables and post type query variables. The WP class has public query variables to identify query strings from the URL. These variables can be extended by adding custom query variables. We'll cover this in another video. Let's go back to parse request. The parse request method uses the rewrite rules method of the WP rewrite class to retrieve rewrite rules from the database. If the permalink settings are enabled, the method loops through the rewrite rules, matches the first applicable rule, and sets the corresponding query string. In our custom plugins rewrite.php file, let's print the WP object to the front end. This object includes public query variables, private query variables, query string, request, matched rule, and matched query. This allows us to debug how queries are matched against rewrite rules. The query string is used to identify the category name, post ID, and pagination data. The query is matched and processed to fetch the corresponding content from the database. To better understand this workflow, replicate these steps on your local environment. Pause the video periodically and follow along with the code base. This concludes the overview of the parse request method and how WordPress processes rewrite rules. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Share WordPress.